And then this is the last link that I got.
I got asked that.
Here we go. We've been talking so much about advice for men. Well, the Jordan Peterson is stepping in. Very normal, very healthy man. Jordan Peterson is stepping in, and he's got opinions. Oh, what is this? Why would we need incel neo-chauvinist ideas for that purpose when Vaush can easily handle it himself? This guy's whole thing is making sure a relatively obscure phenomena explodes so we can both monetize covering it and monetize pretending to fight it. Wait, how is it my fault that saying we should care about men prompts death threats and insane retribution from the that's a you guys thing, okay? If you don't like that it gets a lot of controversy and attention to say shit like we should care about men's problems, then maybe don't freak out over that. Feel like it should be a pretty straightforward statement, but you know. Anyway, let's see how the right is cashing in on this.
3 times in a row, and I didn't have a good answer. And then I thought, why don't I have a good answer? I thought, oh, I know why.
Okay, mate, never mind. Maybe the right's just as bad at this. What?
Because that's a stupid question. So why?
Yeah.
Why? Because it's putting the cart before the horse. Here's the right question. How do I make myself into the perfect date?
So you can look at this as like, so young men have a lot of anxieties about masculinity, about their self-worth, about dating, about their desirability to women. And the goal that a lot of people on the right have is, how do I take those feelings and give answers that pull those young men to the right? How do I use this as like a wedge to pull people in? And so his answer here, and this is a really common one, is basically like doubling down on the self-help bit. Like, so don't talk about dating, don't talk about the logistics of interacting with women, because let's be clear, if you're like some kind of Jordan Peterson fan, you're probably never going to talk to a woman. And they kind of know that. So instead, like let's focus on an element of this insecurity that we can exploit that doesn't involve them ever getting to feel tits in real life, because that's like the death. The death of the incel movement is when they actually touch grass followed by titties. Like that's it. You know, you don't actually want these super anxious, insecure young guys to have like fulfilling romantic lives, because that tends to soften them up a lot. You don't actually want them to succeed in this respect. So we focus on self-help, or what they would call self-help. So let's see. No, literally, like incel communities will ban you if you say you've gotten laid. If you're an incel and you've been part of an incel community for multiple years, and you go back and say, guys, I finally found a cute girl and she really likes me. I just did these things and it really, really worked. I'm telling you guys, like this actually does work. Maybe not all the time, but like it really helps. You'll get banned.
You answer that question and you will not have any problem answering the previous question. It's like, what do I want in a partner? If I offered everything I could to a partner, who would I be? You work on that.
This doesn't mean anything. Even if you were like the perfect person, that wouldn't change the fact that it takes a specific set of skills to interact with other people for the purpose of debating them. This doesn't mean anything. This is stupid. Guys, this is what the left is losing to when it comes to offering advice for men. This right here, this is a soup-brained, like drug-addled invalid who says nothing. And he's like blowing the left the fuck out on appealing to insecure young men. Insane. Absolutely insane.
Ask that question. Just ask yourself, okay, I have to be the person that women would want. Okay, what do they want? Clean. That's not a bad start.
Okay, wow. I'm actually feeling more despair than before. I thought that Jordan Peterson would cobble together something approximating a good answer, but I am now once again being confronted with the unavoidable fact that we are losing this particular rhetorical game, this wedge of optics, to the least convincing man on earth. It's very embarrassing, you know? Like, let's take a look at the opposition, and it's somebody smashing their cock and balls with a large rock. And that's like that's winning over us on this issue. So that's cool. That's great. That's great. Why are we pretending the only thing JBP gives men is advice, lol? We're not making moral statements about the value of the stuff Jordan Peterson says. It's awful. He's awful. We're not saying he only does that. What I'm saying is that the right uses self-help advice for young men as a wedge to get them invested in the other awful stuff that he says. So, for instance, first you give advice on dating and masculinity. Oh, well, you should be masculine. Society persecutes masculinity now because society is feminized. Society is feminized because of feminism. Feminism has rotted and decayed the West. Like you initially you bite them in with the insecurity. Like, why can't I get laid? Why am I nervous about women? Why do I pee a little bit when I sleep? And when you have them on that, these insecurities are a very strong emotional hook. Then you can use the answers to those questions to give them increasingly conservative worldviews. I'm telling you guys, anxiety around women is the root of so many young guys down the alt-right pipeline stories. Like, overwhelmingly. It so often is like, hey, why do you think Gamergate was such an effective platform for like the neo-Nazi radicalization of so many parts of YouTube? Because it starts out with feminazis are trying to ruin our games. Feminazis are ruining society broadly with their persecution of masculinity. They're making it impossible to date because women are infected with these ridiculous anti-masculine standards. Therefore, we need a social system that protects masculinity against blah, blah, blah fascism. You see? That's why it's so important to speak on these issues. Not because, like, you know, we need to agree with the incels or what. None of that. It's just talk. Hey, young guys, I know you're kind of nervous about some of this stuff. Let's talk about it. If lefties don't think this is important, then like, okay, fine, enjoy it. Let's all die together in the death camps, I guess. Well, whatever. Who needs winning? You know, it's great. Whatever. Is self-help the avenue the left should use to reach out to lonely men? Yeah, and do other ones. Or are there other ways to approach this? Do whatever. Do everything. Do everything. That's fine. Use a million methods. Diversity of tactics. Talk about everything. Get young men into the left by having car repair channels where you talk about, yep, this butte's from 83. 83. That's the year Reagan killed the Union, man. Do whatever you want, dude. Just diversity of tactics. What's up, dude? It's a fucking baby. Look at this little idiot.
Cortez.
Wah.
Jeffries.
Yeah, the actual congressperson is the baby, and the man the baby is strapped to is just the vehicle the congressperson uses to get around. You saw this, right? Yeah, Brianna Wu is based. That's because Brianna Wu suffered like the worst blowback of Gamergate and understands how like important it is, like how much the like young male anxiety is a breaking point when it comes to political advocacy. She had a bad take on Total Biscuit. Was it about Total Biscuit and the Gamergate stuff? Look, Total Biscuit was, I think, for a time kind of participatory in the Gamergate stuff. The Gamergate stuff was like an unimaginable harassment tsunami for some people, especially Brianna Wu. If Brianna Wu feels poorly about Total Biscuit because of that, like, I can't blame her. Like, like that, I can't even begin to fathom like the amount of harassment any acknowledgement from a figure of that size would have like directly led to. But I don't know the specifics, you know. Total Biscuit did a lot of really good stuff, so I mean, I don't, yeah. I don't want to like that. It's not like an essentialist condemnation. I think when I was a younger streamer, I said some more harsh stuff about Total Biscuit, but I think that was pretty stupid in retrospect. You got to remember that even if people do bad things, which Total Biscuit did, like Total Biscuit's entire legacy on YouTube as a, you know, gamer and as a games journalist and so on, like, you know, it definitely expands way so far beyond just that. But if Brianna Wu's perspective of Total Biscuit is one like mostly taken up by that harassment experience, I mean, I can't blame her for feeling that way, right? It's sort of a subjective assessment of character.